3, 2, 1. Episode 431 with Dale, motherfucking Comstock. We took a hiatus last week from the American Badass Chronicles to talk about nuclear security. And now, whether or not Dale wants to, we're doing a UFO episode because we touched on Area 51 at the end of the last episode, which is out in the Nevada test site is where they did a lot of nuclear tests in the 50s. So it does kind of intertwine. For everybody listening, Dale Comstock, The American Badass book will be in the description, sticking to the top comment. Go buy it. It's fucking awesome. He's going to put it on Audible. But yeah, so we talked about UFOs, and Dale brought up a UFO story, and I was like, motherfucker. I was like, Dale likes UFOs. And everyone that listens to this knows that it's my guilty pleasure, and there's a lot more coming out now. Obviously, Commander Fravor from the U.S. Navy, who went on Joe Rogan like 2 years ago and talked about his experience off the USS Nimitz in 2004 off San Diego. And there are more things coming out now. It is Sunday, May 2nd, 2021, for historical purposes, about like pyramidal shaped UFOs off, I guess, again, harassing the Navy. And we're coming into a weird area where now it's like things that were never spoken about are now, in the like just common lexicon and are being acknowledged by the Pentagon, which I just think is insane. It's we've thought this was going on forever. But Dale told his story last week about an unidentified flying object he saw out in Area 51. And I told this story once before, I think back on like episode 20 or something. And I won't go into the full thing because it took forever to tell, but I'll give the shortened version, which is 5-10 minutes. And not that Dale signed up for this, and he's probably thinking, "Why the fuck am I sitting here on a Sunday morning listening to Tommy talk about UFOs?"
You do that, I'm gonna eat my breakfast.
Eat your breakfast, UFOs and pancakes. But yeah, so I'll keep track so I don't go off. But it's so in college, obviously, as I've said, I was pre-med. I studied all day, every day. Literally, I didn't go out and drink. I didn't go out, and I was very regimented. I was, clinically OCD. I'd wake up at the same time every morning. I'd lift weights in my room, take a cold shower. I would meditate, and then I would eat, and then I would study for 90 minutes, and then I'd meditate for 20 minutes, 90 minutes, 20 minutes. I literally did that 12 hours a day for 4 years. And that's how I got into medical school. That's how I had a perfect GPA. Anyone that watches this knows how, just this fucking room right now, I go all out when I pursue something. So that is a necessary part to lay the framework. So this was, I think this is fall 2011 to spring 2012. I lived at 183 Mandy Street in Athens, Georgia. And I lived on the top floor, second room on the left. And again, I would wake up every morning at the same exact time, and I would meditate on my bed, back to the wall, and I had my windows right there. And when you sit in the same spot every single day, you start to pick up on, even if you don't actively study it, when you meditate at 5:15 a.m. every single day, you start to which stars come up over the trees, which one, and then they start to disappear as the sun comes up. You meditate during the day. I would meditate, at the end of the day. I would still be studying as the sun went down, and you just start to pick certain things out. Just like when when the FedEx truck's coming, I would just look, and over that tree, I know there are these 3 stars, and over that one, and as you look at them for hours a day when you're meditating, again, nothing really important. Obviously, as the seasons change, because this is all I did, you could see as the sky slowly shifts, the sun rises, more over here. In the winter, you obviously have less sunlight, summer more. The whole celestial bodies move from your perspective. Okay. I think it's important to say all this because I am an odd example of someone who, unlike every other college kid, I was just the one guy who was sitting there every single day, seeing the same shit every single day. Um, so I remember one day I was meditating, and it was like, I don't know, maybe like 5, 6 p.m. To the point where like you could really almost maybe in the next hour you'd start to see stars a little. You get the weird kind of phenomena where you still kind of see like sunlight coming over the horizon, but as you look up, you see it turn from like gold to pink to blue to black to where you can start to see some stars. Nothing special. And I remember meditating, and I remember seeing like one thing in the sky, and I was just kind of looking at it, and it was shimmering really brightly. And from where I was, there were no, this is 90 minutes from Atlanta. This isn't Hartsfield Jackson, so you're not really, there is a little airport, but again. And I remember seeing something that was like shimmering wildly, just bright, bright, bright. Kind of like when you look at the sun, it doesn't even really look like a color. It's just bright. And I saw that, and it caught my eye, but the first thing I thought was that's like a metal fuselage of a plane, whatever, sun's hitting it. And then it kind of went away, whatever. It really just didn't register in my brain. The next couple minutes I saw it kind of come back. I was like, all right, and I was still kind of focused on meditating more, but I kept looking at it, and it was just still there, just kind of pulsing on, really bright. I mean, like dazzling, and would go away. I was like, whatever. And went back, 90 minutes of studying, sat back down, meditating. By now, the sun had gone down. It was still kind of pink and gold, still a little bright coming over the horizon, but the sun itself was gone. See a lot more stars now. I see that fucker there again. Same spot, which wasn't until hindsight that I realized, well, that it can't be a star because it would have moved with everything else. That didn't register at the time. I still saw it, and I was like, oh, it must be a helicopter. Again, sun is going to be hitting the metal fucking outside of it, the canopy, whatever. Get bright, 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 bright. Go away. Bright, 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 bright. And this was over like a minute. And I'm looking at it, and finally, after a couple minutes, I stopped meditating, and I was like, the fuck is that? And just to show who I'm not unbiased. I want UFOs to be real. This was in 2011. I was 21, and I remember at the time thinking, I was like, please be a UFO. And so I'm not unbiased, but watching it, and it would go away, and I was like, that's fucking weird, man. Same thing, another 90 minutes of studying, come back and meditate. Now the sun's completely down. It's still kind of maybe like a light blue or like a dark blue, but for the most part, the sky's black, streetlights are on. I still see this thing kind of dazzling there. And that's the first time it registered with me. I was like, well, it can't be a star because it would have moved over the horizon with the rest of the night sky. But now there's like different stars behind it, and the thing's still there, dazzling, going away. And so now I'm staring at it, and I'm like, what the fuck is that? And I'm really, so as much as I wanted it to be a UFO, I was also a militant atheist. This is before really I kind of got into the spiritual side of things. So I'm literally pre-med. So I'm like trying to, as much as I want it to be a UFO, I'm also priding myself on breaking it down. I'm like, what is it? Is it a star? Is it something? Is it a planet? Can maybe you see Jupiter tonight? I don't know. But I'm like, no celestial explanation can exist simply because everything else has moved. So whatever it is, it should have gone behind the horizon. And I'm looking at it and just dazzling bright, going away, dazzling bright, going away. And I'm like, what the fuck is that? So I go and get my roommate downstairs, Chance, who on the polar opposite end of me, he is the liberal to my conservative. He's watching like the Kardashians, he's eating cheese puffs. And I'm like, Chance. And he's like, what's up, man? And I'm like, get up here. And we go upstairs. I look at, and I go, am I seeing something? And he was like, I don't know, man. Must be a star. And I'm like, Chance, it's been doing this for an hour. And he was like, goddamn, man. And he goes back downstairs. And finally, it goes away entirely. And I'm like, all right. And then it comes back. I'm like, okay. And now it starts moving. And I'm like, again, as much as I want it to be UFO, I'm like, science for the win. I want to break it down into something what it is. I'm a cocky asshole. I'm like, I'm a smart guy. So I got downstairs to Chance, and I go, Chance, there's a goddamn UFO outside. Come outside with me. And he goes, all right, man. And we walk outside, and we're standing at the back of Mandy Drive and looking at this thing. You can see it kind of coming over the horizon. And I go, do you see that? And he goes, yeah, man, I see it. And I was like, okay, I just want to make sure someone else sees it. Chance's watching NASCAR. He's got a butt heavy. He's the antithesis to me, but we're both there. And it's coming and it's coming. And then the lights go off entirely on it. It's no longer this bright ball, but you can see there is a mass. The lights are gone now. And it's just a mass, like a black mass. And it's moving slowly. And it goes over our house. It's not at like airliner level where it's a little dot, but at the same time, it's not right over the house. It's like, I don't know. It's like, I don't know, half a mile up maybe. Dead silent. It's got like a blue and a red light on the bottom of it, but they're not blinking like aircraft lights. They're just kind of there. You can see this thing as clear as fucking day. There's just this kind of circular, kind of triangular thing. Not a sound in the world. I mean, I don't mean like quiet. I mean silent. Nothing. It goes over us. It's blotting out the stars as it goes. And I look at Chance and I go, you saw that? And he goes, yeah. And I go, no one's ever going to believe us? And he goes, never. And I go, I'm just glad you saw that with me. I didn't tell anyone that story until about a year ago because I was like, I'm fucking insane. And I still to this day don't know what to make of it. What do I think it was? I would imagine it was some sort of military craft. I mean, what was that 10 years ago today or yesterday that we iced bin Laden? I mean, we know that there was a stealth Black Hawk helicopter, right? And again, on a side note, what an odd turn of events my life has taken that I'm now sitting here on a Sunday morning with Dale Comstock, a Delta Force guy, regaling my UFO story. But I have to bring that up because I still can't explain it to this day. I don't know what it was. It clearly wasn't part of the sky because it wasn't moving with anything else. Someone else saw it with me. I don't know of anything that doesn't make a sound. And so I wanted to tell that story because I feel like a lot of people have these experiences, but they don't bring them up because they don't want to be the crazy person. But I think I'm in a very unique place in that I did just so happen to observe the night sky and the morning sky of the same area of the sky every single day for a year. I don't know who else has that weird experience, but that's what I saw. And you brought up yours last week. People have been asking on the forums I posted it on if you could tell that story again, but in greater detail. And Dale, thank you for your patience. I know I just sat here just talking about UFOs, and you're probably questioning why the fuck am I friends with Tommy?
Yeah.
Tell your story.
Yeah. So first of all, I'll start with saying, yes, I do believe there are UFOs. Why not? Look, man, the universe is just freaking, I mean, oh my God, it's infinite, man. It just goes on and on and on. We're just starting to discover just how vast the universe really is. And just how small and insignificant we really are, and so why can't there be life, somewhere else on the planet? And I know that, Christians will argue that it's not possible. God's all powerful, all knowing. He built, Adam and Eve and blah blah blah, and that he created the universe. But well, you could also ask the question, well, where did he come from, right? And the argument is, well, he's always existed. No, but then you can't say, well, that the universe doesn't exist and that it didn't come first. If you're saying God came first, then how do we know that maybe the universe didn't come first? So anyways, it's a interesting dialectic, and I know a little bit about it, I think, because I'm not very religious, but I went to Liberty University, and it's a parochial school, and I had to take a lot of religious subjects just to pass and get my bachelor's degree. But I like the study of apologetics. Apologetics tries to use science to prove, Christianity and prove God. I've got to be honest with you. I tried to go along with it, but it just wasn't making sense to me. It just wasn't convincing enough. But anyways, doesn't matter. At the end of the day, if if you're a Christian, you could say, well, yeah, God created the space and he created, aliens. Okay. We can give him credit for all that, even though that's not what the Bible says. But we'll make some adjustments. We'll write another testament. Isn't that what they did? They had an Old Testament. They wrote a New Testament.
Yeah.
Can we write a newer testament? I mean, it's like, how does that work? I'm still trying to figure that out. It's like, yeah, that old religious stuff, the old way of God's not working today. Let's write a new way of doing it and believing it,
Yeah.
But let's go to the UFO stories.
Yeah.
So I was out in Nevada area, Nevada test site, and we were traveling one night, doing maneuvers, military maneuvers, practicing stuff with our desert vehicles, and I remember we pulled up to an area. So in the desert there's areas that are fenced off, actually with just barbed wire fence, like 3 strands of barbed wire, which is interesting. You would think they'd have like chain link fence around and barbed wire, but it wasn't. And it was like an area with a berm about maybe, I don't know, 50 meters by 50 meters square. And then when you went down the berm on the inside, there was an area there that was like maybe a 4x4 area fenced off. And that was kind of ground zero where they would lower, a, whatever nuclear device down there and detonate it. Right. So we were told, don't go into these berms, because right underneath under the layer of sand is, like alpha particles apparently, and they just kind of float around, and you kick up the dust, you can inhale it, and it's all bad juju. So I remember we drove in one night. I don't know how we did that. Maybe there wasn't a fence there or something, but we were like parked in the middle of this thing. Dust was settling, and as I'm sitting there, I look out in front of me, and there was a butte, kind of like it was the only butte in the whole desert, which was kind of interesting. It's like, how did that get out there, right? And as I'm sitting there, I noticed this bright light come up on the backside of this butte, right? And anybody doesn't know what I'm talking about when I say butte. It's like a hill, but it's flat on top.
Yeah.
So exactly, right. So this thing comes up from what looked like from behind it, and it's just kind of hovering, real bright light, just sitting there hovering. Wasn't doing anything. It just came from the ground up, and so we're all like, "Wow, what the hell is that?" So we got on the gas and drove towards the butte, and we came around the left side of it, I remember, and going to drive around the back to see what the hell that was. But by the time we got around the backside, it was gone. And we didn't see it. You didn't see it fly off or anything like that, because we had a good 360-degree view, and we would have seen it. The vehicles were spread out far enough that if I was going around one side and it kind of took off, the other vehicles on the other side could still see it, right? So nobody saw it depart. Don't know what happened to it. It was just gone. Right, there was nothing there but just desert sand in the backside of this butte. So to this day, I still can't tell you what that was. It wasn't a helicopter. I know helicopters real well. I know what flares look like. Parachute flares. It wasn't none of that. It wasn't a parachute flare. It wasn't a drone. Whatever it wasn't that big, but it had a pretty bright light to it. And boom, gone just like that. So that didn't convince me there were aliens. I already believed there were. I just felt that it's high probability that it has something to do with it. Maybe not, but well, why not? Why can't they be out there? There's enough people out there that have that have testified to the fact that they've seen them, maybe even been beamed up by them, all kinds of stuff, and now the government's coming out basically in a roundabout way. Actually, what I think the government is doing, because they've been kind of leaking this out for a little while now, right? And I think that's what they're trying to do, is just kind of get us all desensitized to the idea that, there's going to be aliens, right? And, so they feed us a little bit of information, initial report, and get us all excited. We're going to give you another report, and then we're going to give you a detailed report, and it's all sounding like, there's going to be good stuff in there, and so I think that's what they're doing, man. Because can you imagine just out of the blue, right? They just said, oh, yes, there's aliens, and we caught some, and they're everywhere. What that would do. First of all, I started out with, talking about, Christians and religious people, God-fearing people, that would really kind of, screw up the narrative a little bit, right? If God is, omniscient, omnipotent, all powerful, all knowing. He's the creator, of heaven and earth, and there is nobody else. Well, this will kind of screw that up, right? What do you mean there's nobody? There is somebody else.
Yeah.
So how does that play into the religion? And it's not just Christians, man. It's all religions. They all, most of them all feel the same way. And when I say most, whether it's Islam or Christianity, they believe in one God and some of the same ideologies. So I think that's what they're doing. They're just kind of warming us up to the whole idea. Because think about it. Just think if they confirm it.
Yeah.
Man, what would that do to everybody's way of thinking? First of all, realizing we're not alone, and
Yeah.
and we could, who knows, man, these bastards out there could come back and wipe us out like the movie, War
Yeah.
of the Worlds,
Yeah. Yeah. It does seem like they're desensitizing us, right? Because you can't just. I mean, my logic is like if a craft crashed out at Roswell in 1947, my logic has always been like you're 2 years removed, not even July 47, August 45. You're 23 months removed from World War II. Like you just 85 million dead, discovering death camps in Germany. Like we dropped two nukes on two cities. Like the world was so upended that it was almost like everything was kind of calm. Like, and this new thing comes in that's like gonna upend Christianity, it's gonna upend religion, it's gonna upend the status quo, and it's like everything is calm for the first time in like 7 years. That it's almost like let's put this in the corner. Let's put this over here, right? Like I just moved out of my parents' house for the first time in 5 years. Got my own apartment, set up my own studio. If someone came to me right now and was like, will you adopt this kid? I'd be like, dude, just not right now. Maybe in like a couple years, not right now. I'm on an even keel and I don't want to fuck it up. That's one way of looking at it, is like right after World War II. Another way of looking at it would be I try to look at it, and maybe you can shed some light on this, Dale. I try to look at it from like a military side. If you admit that these are UFOs, and let's say it's during the Cold War, if you admit that these are UFOs and that these have impunity, that 1950 July 1952, the sighting over DC where a bunch of saucers were flying around over Washington DC with thousands of eyewitnesses. If they are there with impunity, that kind of what word am I looking for? That neuters the U.S. military in the eyes of the public. If there are these people, it'd be like if you and some like Delta guys, drop down on the White House lawn or whoever, let's say in Kremlin, and you were running all over the Kremlin or whatever, right? That makes them look weak. If a bunch of people showed up when they were able to parachute down onto the front lawn of the White House, run around and escape the Secret Service, you'd be like, dude, we are not in control. So if you say these are UFOs and we don't know what these are, as a posture, that makes our national security look weak because we don't. Granted, no one can control these, but at the very least, you just don't want to look like you're not in control of your own skies, right? If a UFO is fucking with your ICBM silo, you don't want to give that image to the Soviets or to the Chinese. So that's another way of looking at it. A third way of looking at it is I look at it as a technological edge. If we think of how secret the Manhattan Project was, or the F-117, or the B-2 Spirit, right? No one, the biggest weapon of all is secrecy and surprise. No one knows you're coming. No one, you come out of the shadows, right? You do an operation, as 3 a.m. You want surprise and you just want to come in with just P factor, right? Just violence. If we recovered a craft in 1947, and we had already brought over a bunch of Nazis and we're having them teach us how to build rockets, right? We are just moving from propeller-driven airplanes, the P-51, the B-17, the B-29. We're just now moving to jet engines, again, from the Germans, the Messerschmitt 262. Jet engines are the new thing. If you recovered this craft, that has no seeming moving parts, that can dart around at Mach whatever. We're still trying to break Mach 1 with Chucky Yeager. And you have this thing, well, regardless of the theological or spiritual implications, at the very least, this is just the newest thing you want to use to beat the Soviets. So you're going to keep that quiet. And if you don't understand it, at the very least, you're going to put it in a warehouse somewhere and say, we don't understand it, but we're certainly not going to let anyone else have it until we do understand it. I mean, does any of that make, as yourself, as just a military veteran, does, as a tier 1 veteran, does it, is any of that applicable as like an idea of just like you want to keep it quiet?
Yeah, I mean, why would you bring it out? So I have a couple of theories on that. One, you're right. We don't know what it is, how it works, but we want that technology, right, to give us the advantage. Um, it'll make us even more powerful. Is probably the thinking. The other part is we don't want to tell everybody because we don't want to start, panic and unrest, and the third thing is I think they want to tell us, but when the time is right. And so think about what this could imply. If it's true, they come out and go, it's true. We have aliens, right? And it's pretty scary what they can do, blah blah blah. Um, what would that do to all human beings on planet Earth? It would make us go, oh my God, there's us and then there's them. And when there's a us and them situation, it's like we got to stick together because we don't know how bad them are, right? And what them can do to us.
Uh-huh.
So wouldn't that fit perfectly into a world order, one world government? It's like,
Yeah. Yeah, it
oh,
would.
everybody embrace. We got to stick together. We're gonna need one controller because we're just one gang now. Fighting. We may fight the aliens. And so we got to pull together. And you know,
Common enemy.
so what if okay, this is in fact there are aliens, and now this is the time. It's like now we've already scared everybody with the virus, right? Everybody thinks that they're at risk and they're expendable, and suddenly we throw at them this idea that, oh yeah, there's aliens too. So not only you have to fear the virus, you got to fear the aliens, and the only way we can help you is we got to stick together. So I kind of see that play coming because none of this is what's happening right now in the whole world in our country is making any sense, man. The direction we're going, where are we going? And so is there another agenda, a hidden agenda, that they're waiting for the time is right, and maybe they think June is the right time, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. I've
Mhm.
I've always been on board with that mindset of because you know I tend to be a little hesitant when there's just reports of UFOs coming out from the Pentagon. I look at it and I'm like, if they're saying X, I tend to believe that that's not entirely the truth, right? There's an agenda somewhere, whether it's Gulf of Tonkin in Vietnam, whether it's WMDs, whether it's the scare of COVID. I mean, we've seen that, they're not always truthful. And there also seems to be, there's a lot of, this is a big opportunity for those who are power hungry, right? I mean, Reagan said it at the UN. I often think if there was a UFO invasion, how quickly the world would come together. And that's a very idyllic way of looking at it.
Mhm.
But I think you propose the more realistic explanation. Big, big enemy. We can all come together, right? I mean, think of America right after 9/11. Everyone comes together. We got to defeat the Taliban. But the Taliban wasn't the Soviets. They weren't as scary as the Soviets. Everyone came together. We might, better dead than red. There might be nukes flying in from orbit. We don't know, right? We all band together. The war effort. We got to stop the Japs. We got to stop the Krauts. Man, if they can pull and for the first time, America, we won't be the superior force. If you can pull that in and say, we've got a team together with China, we got a team together with Russia and India. I mean, what better way to just steamroll any opposition,
And, and Yeah, here's the irony, right? So we got to all pull together. We got a one world government. We got to, for command and control, for it's for your well-being and your safety and security. And oh, by the way, you can no longer go to work. You can no longer do this. You need to curfew, right? Just think about it, and they'll come with all kinds of reasons why don't come outside your house because you might get scooped up by an alien, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And people will believe it, like, oh my God, and that's how gullible we are, man. And so I could see that being used to manipulate the hell out of us, taking away all our liberties. It's part of control. And the other thing too is this is not a modern phenomenon. When you look at history,
Mhm.
by the way, so I like watching what's it called? Ancient Aliens on, I
Fuck
think it's
yeah,
History Channel,
fuck
man.
yeah,
I could dedicate the whole day just to
fuck
watching
yeah.
that, but there's some pretty interesting stuff on just on that alone when you watch it about the pyramids and some of the
Mhm,
artifacts they're finding, that look like F4 fighter jets,
mhm,
spacesuits, and the other thing too that's interesting is how all the pyramids around the world, okay, are somehow geometrically connected with straight lines. And when I went to Mexico City. What I didn't know is Mexico City had a pyramid. I didn't know that. I was like, really? I know they were in Guatemala and everywhere else, but I didn't know there was one actually in Mexico City, and there was. And I went to visit it with on a protective detail. But what I found out while I was there was um, right underneath the base of the pyramid, actually running up from the front side, underneath on the ground was a bed of what was a bed of like ceramic. It's a ceramic type crystal that can only be found in Peru. And so somehow somebody went and hauled a lot of this crystal back,
hmm,
right, and buried it under the surface of by the pyramid. And the theory is that it has something to do with conducting energy, electricity, power, and somehow this whole thing was set up to communicate with something, with
mhm.
somebody. So there's a lot of evidence now, kind of pointing in that direction, and I mean, it sounds good, makes a lot of sense. Some of it doesn't make any sense, but you know, actually, nothing makes sense. Even when it comes to aliens, right? It's like doesn't make any sense until we see them,
Mhm.
But we all suspect that there's something bigger out there. I'm convinced of that. I'm absolutely convinced, man, that they're out
So am
there.
I. So am I. I'm 110% I am. I
Yeah,
don't I mean, there's all Graham Hancock's book, Fingerprints of the Gods. I mean, things like the way the pyramids are aligned on, like, the perfect north-south, like, axis or whatever it is, the way their coordinates are like a fractional, like, representation of, like, the dimensions of the Earth, the way that, like, the insides of them have, like there's, like, cutting in boreholes that can only be done with, like, diamond tipped drills, but they're from, like, 3,000 years ago. I mean, some of this shit and was it Gobekli Tepe, where Graham Hancock shows, all the rocks fitted together so tightly that you couldn't even get a credit card in there, and he was like, he's like, "This would take a massive undertaking with, like, construction companies in 2020, let alone from where it's from 10,000 years ago."
yeah,
I mean, and it's very easy to look at, and it's kinda like dividing by 0. Your brain just kinda goes it's like asking, what existed before the universe? It's almost it's such an enormous question that you almost can't spend time on it because, like, you gotta go pick up your daughter from school, you got a podcast with Dale, and it's like, "What?" It's like, "What came before the Big Bang?" And you're just like, "I don't know." And you just you come to a
yeah,
test and it's a question you can't answer. You go, "I'm not even gonna waste my time on it, I'm gonna use." That's what you did on the MCAT, the Medical College Admissions Test. You come to a question, it's a time section, and you go, "I know for a fact I don't know that answer. I have a pretty good chance at the rest of these questions. So how about I just write that one off as wrong and save the time after some questions I do have." And it's kind of like that where you look at something like why are the pyramids lined up in such a way? Why are their coordinates say this? How come when they line up with the stars and the precession of the equinoxes and that shows that they were built 36,000 years ago? Why is there rainwater erosion on the Sphinx despite that the fact there hasn't been heavy rainwater in over 9,000 years? And Robert Schoch, the water geologist from Harvard, came over and said this is water erosion. The Sphinx must be 50,000 years old, and it just upturns every. You look at it and it just kind of goes like, and you're like, I'm gonna go have lunch now. You can't, you just can't. But sometimes you do have to sit down and go, what are the implications of this? It's
Yeah.
for me not much. I'm still got to plug in my computer to do the podcast, but you look at it and you're like, there are some very odd, there are sighting, right? Christopher fucking Columbus talked about seeing saucers on his voyage. I mean, right? Ezekiel, the wheel within a wheel. It's in the Bible. The Vimanas from I cannot pronounce it, but from like the Indian ancient text, the Vimanas, they talked about giant spinning. They called them like castles in the sky, but they described them as ships. I mean, and then I think, you know, this is an analogy I always use is those like undiscovered tribes they're finding in like the South Pacific, little islands like 10,000 miles from anybody. They've got like loincloths and spears. I mean, truly, I don't mean like, primitive. I mean, uncontacted. They don't know the rest of the world exists. Well, one, what do? We go and we observe them, right? We do it on National Geographic. What do we do with these people? We go look at them and we're like, oh, wow, they're still in the Stone Age. But you got to look at it from their point of view, right? You've got your fucking whatever. You're going around, you're just hunting, you're making huts out of mud, whatever. And they throw spears at the helicopters when they go look at them. But look at it from their point of view, all right? Something comes over the horizon of what they probably imagined is a flat Earth. It's loud as fuck, right? Like a Black Hawk helicopter. It looks like it probably just remove all like, oh, that's a helicopter. Pretend you're seeing it for the first time. What does it really look like? It looks like a giant insect almost. It's this big, creepy, long thing. They've never seen glass. It's got a glass canopy. What is that? The metal, that's ore that we refined and melted and smelted and fabricated. They've never seen that. Maybe they found like metal ore. Maybe they have like a head of a spear or something. But it's this sleek gunmetal matte black with reflective cockpit. And it's loud beyond the loudest thunderstorm they've ever heard. It's pushing water out from under it. And it's just, there's no wings. But how is it floating there? They're just staring at this thing like, what the fuck is that? And so, of course, they throw spears at it because they're like, what? That's a demon. They're like, what is that? It's a demon or it's an angel. Who knows? What the fuck is that? And we look at it and we're like, oh, wow, uncontacted peoples. And you go to YouTube and you're like, interesting. And it's just, there's no agenda. You just look at it and you're like, that's interesting. I mean, what would another race do? What would an alien race do? They would come here, you know, and from our standpoint, what is it? It's an all silver saucer and it makes no noise and it sits there and it doesn't have any jet engines. I mean, and so what do? Yeah, we'll probably try to shoot it down, right? And they're just coming and they're looking at us and they're like, oh, look at these people. They still haven't discovered a warp drive. I mean, why wouldn't they? And so the question comes down to, is this a controlled thing by the government? Let's roll this out. Maybe are there any aliens at all? Is this our own technology? And we're like, yo, let's fucking drop this on the people, call it aliens. We can use it as a false flag, usher in a one world government and this Illuminati shit. Or are there aliens coming and they've been coming for decades? Are they through some sort of, I don't know, communication kind of telling Uncle Sam or the Soviets or whoever, like, all right, it's kind of like you've had 70 years to tell everyone, you're still not doing it. Maybe they're saying, hey, we're going to start making ourselves. So, like, hey, Dale, I'm going to tell on you. So, you can go fucking fess up first. Is that the case? I don't know. It's obviously all speculation, but
Yeah. I think, one of the things that is interesting is, there seems to be a lot more interest, okay, from aliens, right? We're seeing there's more and more activity, reported activity, okay? And people are wondering why all of a sudden are we getting more and more reported activity of these different aliens. And so there's speculation that okay, everything in this planet is energy. Everything is about frequency and energy, RF energy, right? At the molecular level, everything is moving. All molecules are moving. Actually, nothing is solid
mm-hmm,
because everything at the molecular level has space between it,
mm-hmm,
right? because of the positive and negative energy that these atoms have. So there's always a buffer. So nothing's actually solid. Everything is energy. So everything is affected by energy and frequency. Um, for example, you see a volcano go off, right? And then you look at the dust cloud that's coming out of it, and what's inside the dust cloud? Lightning bolts, right? There's energy in there, man, right? So we have lightning, we have, so the theory is the entire universe is all part of the metaphysical world. It's all about frequency. Everything's energy. Stars, have energy. People think that the moon, that the sun is just a ball of gas that's burning. Actually, it's not. It's kind of like a filament in a light bulb, and because of energy, positive and negative energy, like a filament in a light bulb, it's bright like that, right? And there's stuff that as a layman, we don't understand, but on a scientific level, at a higher level, there's a lot of theories out there on it, and some of it is no longer theory; it's actually hard science. It's reality. But the thinking was probably the most dangerous energy producing thing we have on this planet is nuclear weapons, right? When a nuclear weapon goes off, okay, the electromagnetic pulse from that wipes out everything. I remember watching growing up a movie called Omega Man, and Omega Man, it was like the last survivor after nuclear holocaust, but everything was wiped out. All the cars were dead, the batteries were fried, from the pulse, electromagnetic pulse. But so if nuclear weapons were to go off on this planet, especially like if we have a World War III and it's just total destruction, the amount of energy that would be released into the universe. Okay, because once that energy is released, it doesn't slow down, right? It's not affected by friction where the energy will bleed off. It'll actually continue to propagate out into space with a lot of power and a lot of energy, which could still affect, maybe alien systems that are out there, communication systems, alien life. And so the theory is they're concerned that, we're down here playing around with nuclear weapons, and we could not only just destroy ourselves, but maybe other alien societies that may be out there, right, in space. And so the theory that I kind of fall in, kind of subscribe to is that somehow we are, we are the production of an alien, whatever, right? Project. They decide, let's sprinkle this planet with these little earthling thingies, right? And let them grow up and see what they can do. Sure. We're somehow interrelated or interbred with them. But they've been here before. It's part of the reason why all the pyramids, like you said, are perfectly aligned around the planet. Speaking of pyramids, by the way, there's pyramids everywhere. Even in Indonesia, where I live, there's actually a pyramid that's under a mountain, and the government doesn't have the money to excavate it or allow anybody to do that. So it's buried under but it's massive. It's a massive pyramid, which is covered with jungle. But they know it's there. They've already, the imagery. There are pyramids under the ocean. I mean, it's there everywhere, right? And who built all that? I mean, come on, man. I mean,
why?
Yeah, come on. And so, again, the theory is that they had something to do with our evolvement and how we grew, became who we are as a society. But they're also concerned. They're like, oh shit, now these guys are getting out of control, and they might actually harm the rest of the universe. So that's why they're coming back. There seems to be maybe some kind of interest on their part. And I was reading somewhere not too long ago where over some of these nuclear sites, these missile silos, that some of the electronics are shut off, right, and being interrupted. Could that be like a test? Let's see if we can we can disrupt their system so they can't, launch these weapons. Who knows, man? But there's a lot of coincidence. There's too many things that seem too coincidental. It's like, I don't know, man. It's just
there's no, it makes sense. Doctor, I think I got his name right. Dr. Al, I think it's Ronig, Ronig. I might be wrong on that. He's the former head of Skunk Works from Lockheed Martin. Not obviously not the famous one, Ben Rich. I think he was the head between like 2011 and some years. Point is, I watched a lecture on him like 5 years ago, and he was talking about the history of the SR-71 Blackbird. And he said one thing they would do is They would wait until like dictators in like South America or wherever would be giving speeches, these, kind of death to America speeches in front of the, wherever the state capitol, and they'd have 10,000 people there. And, we will crush the Capitol as pigs. He was like, we would, we'd have our guys on the ground, like Dale, they'd have guys on the ground that, their intel would feed, hey, they're doing like a rally today or whatever. And what we would do is we would go, we'd have two SR-71s come down from like 80,000 feet, like off the coast to wherever, I don't know, maybe 10,000 feet. And we'd have them come and they'd cross each other like over the plaza where the speech was being given. So you'd have these twin sonic booms going at whatever these things were going at, Mach 2, Mach 3. But they also wanted them to be seen. So they just these black darts going throughout this. And the entire point is like, we're not there for surveillance. If we want surveillance, we'd be doing it from 80,000 feet quietly. It's like, no, I think what Al Ronig said was, we showed them that we were there, and we were there with impunity. Just kind of like, fuck you. Like, yeah, death to America. No, here we are. And show all the people, look, they're helpless against us. Your leader isn't the end all be all. We can crush you at a whim. I mean, would that not be what would be the ultimate flex than to come hover over your nuclear facilities and turn batteries on and off?
Yeah.
And just kind of, and not even have to do it quickly. Just sit there hovering and being like, there's your nuke's on, your nuke's off, nuke's on, nuke's off. There's your megaton warhead that keeps the Soviets at bay. Oh, now it's off. Oh, now it's back on. I mean, behind the president, is there any greater security, like VIP, than like ICBMs, our strategic deterrent? Just down there, just turn them on, turn them off, and then just, I'm gonna head out when I want to head out, not because you're shooting missiles at me. I mean, what greater flex would there be? You go to prison, you kill the biggest guy on the first day, right? You come down and turn off America's ICBMs. Or 1952, you do saucer flyovers of the Capitol and the White House. I mean, what better way to come in and you punch the biggest guy in the face than that, right? It's just come in and do that. And it's that, or this is another thing I was thinking, and maybe we're getting a little more out there. But let's say that these are United States technology. What better way to test them than a true randomized test would be to buzz U.S. carrier fleets? They don't know it's a test. They think it's a UFO. So they're going to go on full DEFCON 1 war footing. If you can evade them, well, then you can evade anyone. Was it just the ultimate field test? You go against America, and America could, so okay, now we know the Chinese can't stop us. Now we know that the Soviets can't stop us. Or is this our technology, and are we using it as a sort of proxy? If we go bomb Beijing, that's no good. That's World War III. But if some flying saucers go fuck with Beijing or the Kremlin, we can be like, oh my God, that's terrible. That's crazy. How did that happen? That's not us. We don't have flying saucers. We have the B-2 Spirit and the B-52. We send in Dale. It's, I don't know what that is. That's unfortunate, right? Maybe they go hit a Saudi Aramco oil refining facility, and we're like, oh, holy shit. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's all intriguing, man. It's intriguing, and when you think about it, like what the implications are, like, man, they're okay. What if we come across one alien, right? How many other types of aliens are out there,
Mm-hmm.
and and what other kind of worlds do they live in, and what's it like? And and what do we mean how significant are we or insignificant are we? What does it all mean? Um, again, I think that we live on no matter what. Our energy continues to live on because the law of thermodynamics, energy
Mm-hmm.
cannot be created nor destroyed. So once we're dead, our bodies are dead, but that energy is
Yeah.
still there, and it's transmuted into the universe. I think it's exciting that if there are aliens, that means the prospect of our eternal life is real,
Mhm.
man. It's like, and where could we end up? Maybe we could end up, being reincarnated in another planet,
Mhm.
through that energy,
Mhm.
Um,
Absolutely.
it's
No.
just, yeah, it's pretty exciting, man. I'm all for it, and if they come down here and mean us harm, well, so be it,
Yeah.
it is what it is, but it's our fate. But
It's like,
yeah.
yeah, it's it's if Uncle Sam wants me dead, I'm dead, right? Right now there could be in flight a JDAM with its laser on my apartment, right? I mean, what am I gonna? Sure, I can lock my doors. I can go buy a gun, but I mean, come on. If Uncle Sam wants me gone, they're gonna send Doctor Dale after me, and it's
Yeah.
game over, right? Doctor Dale's gonna come give his prescription, and it's over. If these aliens want us gone, man, my logic
Yeah.
is they would have already done it, or if they're
Yeah.
gonna do it, they're gonna do it, and it's just whatever.
Yeah.
It's done. They're right. If we wanted to drop a thermonuclear weapon on the Congo, like it's coming, man. It's coming, and so just smoke them if you got them. If the aliens want to get rid of us, they're gonna get rid of us.
Yeah.
I don't think they will because I don't think we pose a threat to them. I think they're probably it might be it might be that they're looking at us as in 1,000 years we're going to pose a threat. Maybe it's like we armed the Mujahideen to fight the Soviets, but now all of a sudden we're like, oh fuck, it's the Taliban, and now they attack us, and we're like, we got to go fuck these motherfuckers up. I mean, maybe they're coming down and they're like, yo, we gave you that saucer back in 47, America, because we thought you guys were hot shit. You went and liberated all the death camps. You nuked the Japs. But they're coming down and they're like, nobody's got health insurance. Most of the people on the planet don't have drinking water. Like, what the fuck did you do with the lunch money we gave you? Maybe they're coming down and they're like, you think you have some hair on your chest? You think you're gonna come out into the universe and fuck with us? Maybe they're sending their Dr. Dales. And they're coming down here and they're like, uh-uh. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's, you know, uh, maybe there is a sliver of positivity. Maybe they're kind of, like you said, they're desensitizing us to it, and they're going to slowly start releasing the technology associated with it. And hey, we can provide limitless clean energy for everybody. I, I don't know. I tend to think that if the Pentagon's saying that these are real, that we confirm that they are real, I tend to think that this has been war gamed and there is something behind this and there is some purpose, some initiative, there's some agenda, and I don't know what it is, but I
Yeah.
don't see them just coming out and saying, "We got UFOs." I don't see that happening for nothing.
Yeah. So what's changed, right? What has changed to prompt that? So why now is there a need to tell everybody,
Mhm.
unless you're right, there's an agenda? And so what is it, and why is the timing now?
Now,
Um, you know, and they're talking about June. It's going to come out. Yeah. It's
it the whole thing is, you know, it
and you have to assume that if the Pentagon is saying yes, we're confirming that we've seen these things, that's pretty serious because they have the intelligence, they have all the capability,
yeah.
sensor systems, everything to kind of verify that. And if they're going to come out and say it, that means they're pretty damn sure that they got it right. And which in a lot of ways, it removes any doubt or skepticism. It's like, man, look, we're willing, no, not all of us, but many of us are willing to believe, the government, the FBI, that everybody's honest and will do the right thing, which we know is bullshit, especially when it comes to the government, even the FBI.
Mhm.
But I just think that if it comes out, the reports come out, there will be enough substance to it that most people will go, "Oh, shit, there really are aliens." And I think when that happens, you're going to see a paradigm shift. You're going to see people even more afraid, especially those that don't have the education. And and have seen all the alien movies, like, War of the Worlds, like, oh my God, that's what everybody thinks, like this COVID, right? 99.76% survivability rate, but everybody thinks that this is the Black Plague and we're all going to die if we don't wear a mask, actually 2 masks, and stay inside. I'm here in the Panama City beach. I'm seeing women on the beach in bikinis wearing a mask laying in the sun. I'm like, huh? That's how inculcated and how fearful, and how fear is so strong, man. Fear is a powerful motivator, and that's what's happening here. And just think of this fear of, a possible alien invasion. They're checking us
Mhm.
out. What are they going to do to us? And what can they do to us? Man, they can do all kinds of stuff that we don't even know about. Oh my God, And so, just think how people will respond to that. Many
Oh yeah.
people will, oh my God, and not only that, you might go, well, you know what? There's obviously no God, so I'm not going to be judged, right? So I can do whatever I want. I can freaking be
Possibly.
sinful. Well, I can kill people. I can steal shit, and I'm not going to be held to account except by my own. And I don't care about them anymore because there's aliens. We need to worry about those guys, right?
Yeah.
Um,
It's oh yeah, no, I mean, there will never be a bigger defense budget. There'll
yeah,
be we need shit to shoot these things down.
yeah.
We need to be able to I mean, and not only that, I mean, how long until you're gonna see those little banners under the YouTube videos instead of like, click here to learn more about COVID or like robust election safeguards protect against hacking. And it's like all the shit I always get hit with. How long until there's a little banner under this video that's like learn more about the 2022, you know, August contact day, you know, help prevent dangerous misinformation from alt-right personalities. The aliens are not here to help you. They're here to hurt. And we're like, hey, maybe this is the beginning of a galactic federation. And they're like, learn more about, are your friends alien sympathizers? Like, it's gonna be some shit like that, dude. There's gonna
yeah.
be a reasoning behind it. In which case, I hope there are real aliens, because maybe they just need to come and then bulldoze the motherfuckers who are ruling over us.
Yeah.
I
You know what? And most people, the majority of people on the planet, we all need we all need order, right?
mhm,
And we need order. Um, we need to be predictable. Everything needs to be predictable. We need to have order, right? And people are afraid of that. It's called change, right? And people are afraid of change. And suddenly, if this were to come along, now we have chaos. There's no more order in the universe. It's like, there's going to be chaos in people's minds. Like, oh my God, all my paradigms have been broken. I thought, we were the only ones, and God and this and that. And wait a minute, there's aliens out there. Um, so I think, there will be chaos, and in chaos, it's going to be stemming from fear of the unknown, because we fear what we don't understand. That's a fact. And the only way we can not fear it is by understanding it, having an education, having some experience to go with it. We live with some hypotheses, but people need order, and without that, and it's going to be disorder, they're going to go into mass chaos and fear. And that's the best time to control people, is when they're afraid. That's why,
mhm.
terrorists, that's their mission, is scare the shit out of people, right? To control their thoughts, how they vote, which way they lean politically. um, this would be a great way to like the COVID. Look what COVID did. The fear of this stupid virus. Okay. Look what it has done to the world, man. The global economy. Look what it's done to just society alone, man. We got people, killing each other over masks, and ratting each other out for having more than 3 people in their house at the same time. If we're willing to do all that over a virus that's probably safer than the cold, just imagine what will happen if suddenly we're faced with the prospect of, being destroyed by an alien, civilization, or, you know, um, and all that will come with the visitation of an alien. And not only that, it's funny because you said, well, what if the aliens are thinking that, they need to come down and be proactive and preemptive because we're getting a little out of hand. But we're assuming that the aliens think like us and use logic, right? And maybe they don't. Maybe they're just like, they're like locusts, man. They're going from planet to planet to eat whatever they can find there, right? And rape and pillage and burn everything, to the next one. We're assuming that, they're going to be logical and like us, and rational in their approach on everything. Hell no, maybe they got another agenda. It's like they're getting us ready for the freaking the frying pan, man. They're going to eat us.
I mean, maybe, man. I mean, right? Look at us, right? We come in, we come in. We go to like the Middle East or something, and is it like, oh, we're coming in, America's gonna save us? No, we give weapons to the most ruthless dictator, and we're like, yo, just support America's interests, and we'll give you some like tanks. And
Yep.
those people are like, what the fuck? So maybe the aliens come here and they look at China and they're like, hey, y'all are some ruthless motherfuckers. Here's some lasers. Tell America to fuck off, and you allow us to set up a pipeline. And we're just like, oh, I mean, it might just be the darkest of darks, in which case we're just going to broadcast the end of the world from this podcast.
Oh my
But
God.
fuck yeah, Dale. I said I'd only keep you for an hour, so I'll let you go.
All right. Cool.
We'll get back to your regularly scheduled American Badass programming. Everybody, I know that those are the episodes you like, but I asked for a nuclear facility episode last week, and Dale so graciously gave me one. And he made the mistake at the end of mentioning UFOs, which meant that this episode was inevitable. I wasn't going to allow it to not happen, and but I'm glad we had it, and we'll get back to what we can prove with Dale's stories next week. We'll because those are as crazy as aliens. But Dale, my man, your
All
book
right.
American Badass will be in the description and in the top comment, as well as your training. And all right, man. Until next
All
week,
right.
Dale.
Take
Take it
care,
easy,
Tommy.
buddy.
Bye-bye.
All right, buddy. Peace.